Okay, so strap in everybody because today we are diving headfirst into a real mystery.
Oh, I like this already.
Right. We're talking about the world before the flood.
Okay.
And no, not just like Noah building the ark, though that's definitely a whole other deep dive waiting to happen.
Right.
But I'm talking way, way back. Like first civilizations, tech, even giants, all that good stuff that this source material says was going on before the deluge hit.
Yeah, see, that's what I find so fascinating about this particular text we're looking at today, right? It takes what we know or think we know from the Bible and it runs with it.
So it's like using those little hints and clues.
Exactly. Like those breadcrumbs, Hansel and Gretel, except instead of leading to a gingerbread house, it's leading us to, well, a whole lost world.
Okay, I am here for it. So help me out here. Because we all know the Adam and Eve story, right?
Yeah.
Kicked out of Eden, got to work for a living.
Right.
But this text we're talking about, it throws in early cities, music, even like metalworking going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not exactly roughing it, you know? So how much of this is believable? Like, were our ancestors really that advanced that early on?
Well, and that's the million-dollar question, right? The Bible does mention these things, but very briefly, it doesn't really go into a ton of detail.
It is true. It's more like, and then there were cities.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait, hold on. How'd that happen?
Exactly. So this text takes those little nuggets and expands on them, and it makes you wonder, right, if people were really living for centuries back then, like Genesis says.
Right, hundreds of years.
Imagine the kind of knowledge and skills they could accumulate over a lifetime like that.
I mean, can you imagine the stories they could tell? Talk about a long-winded grandpa. But also, on a practical level, wouldn't that get a little crowded? Like, was the whole planet just one big ancient city?
Okay, so that's a really good question, and it's something the text itself kind of grapples with, this idea that living for so long, it's both a blessing and a curse, right?
How so?
Well, on one hand, you have all this time to learn, to master your craft, to really become wise. But on the other hand, think about wickedness, right? If someone's got bad intentions, imagine how deeply rooted those could become over centuries.
Oh, so it's like the good gets amplified, but so does the bad.
Exactly. Now, as for the population question, I'll be honest, the text doesn't give us a straight answer.
So it's more like that's for you to ponder.
Right. It makes you think, though, if they were thriving for so long, did they have some kind of sustainable living figured out that we've lost? Or did that maybe contribute to whatever problems led to the flood? It's fascinating to consider.
Okay, yeah, my brain is already doing backflips, but we got to talk about the elephant, or should I say giant, in the room.
Let me guess.
The Nephilim. Come on, these weren't just tall people. They were like the superheroes of their time.
Right.
And this text, it mentions sons of God marrying daughters of men.
Ah.
So, like, are we talking literal angel babies here? Don't hold out on me.
Okay, so the Nephilim, and specifically that whole sons of God thing, it's probably the most debated part of Genesis. Scholars have been going back and forth on it for centuries.
No kidding.
Seriously. There are basically two main interpretations, right? The first one is, like you said, taking it literally angels procreating with humans, which is how you get these super powerful beings.
Okay, that's one way to get superpowers.
Right. The other interpretation takes a more symbolic approach.
Okay, I'm listening.
It says that sons of God actually refers to the lineage of Seth, Adam and Eve's other son, the one they had after Cain and Abel.
Right, right.
So Seth's descendants, they were known for being righteous, whereas Cain's line, not so much. So this interpretation says the Nephilim were the result of these two lines mixing, the godly and the ungodly.
So less about literal angels and more about bloodlines getting all mixed up.
Exactly. It's about the consequences of, well, maybe not following the best example.
Okay, I'm with you. So which way does our text lean? Angels or bad bloodlines?
It definitely plays up the superhuman angle, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It suggests that the Nephilim, they were major players in how advanced pre-flood civilization got. But then that just leads to another question, at what cost?
Ooh, I like where this is going.
Because think about it, right? You've got these beings that are almost like demigods walking around. It disrupts the natural order of things, blurs the lines between divine and earthly.
And it never ends well in the stories.
Right. Exactly. It makes you wonder if their very existence was a sign that things had gone a little too far, that progress without some kind of moral compass can be dangerous, which, is something we're still dealing with today.
Ooh, good point.
So while the text doesn't explicitly say angels or no angels, it definitely makes you think about the implications of messing with the natural order of things.
It really is wild to think about, This whole lost world just vibing along with their advanced tech and Nephilim hanging around.
Right, like something out of a movie.
Totally. But it can't all be sunshine and rainbows,
Yeah.
right? Because eventually we get to the flood
Yeah, that's kind of a downer.
a bit. So how does our source material set that up? Is it just like the classic, God got mad at all the sinning and decided to hit the reset button?
Well, it's interesting because the text paints a more, I don't know, nuanced picture, I guess.
Nuance cow.
It's less about anger and more like God is deeply saddened by how messed up humanity has become.
Oh, so it's more like a I'm disappointed in you kind of thing.
Yeah, more of a heartbroken parent than an angry punisher, if that makes sense. And even the way the flood is described, it's super
Oh,
intense.
it's not just a little drizzle.
No, not at all. There's this whole thing about the fountains of the deep being opened up.
Right. It's like way more intense than just it rained for 40 days and 40 nights.
Exactly. It makes you picture something way more cataclysmic, like the planet itself was breaking apart.
Oh, okay, so what are the scholars saying about this fountains of the deep business?
Well, lots of them think it refers to massive geological events happening alongside the rain.
So like earthquakes, volcanoes, the whole shebang.
Yeah, picture it. Earthquakes opening up huge chasms, volcanoes erupting, tsunamis wiping out coastlines.
Dude, that's intense. Suddenly, Noah building a boat doesn't seem so crazy.
Right, it puts it into perspective, and it makes you wonder, if this global reshaping is what gave us the mountains and valleys and continents we have today.
Ooh, so like the earth got a total makeover.
Exactly. Which, if you're into geology at all, that just opens up a whole other rabbit hole to go down.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But after all that destruction, we get the rainbow, right?
Yeah.
That feels like a pretty big shift in tone.
Totally. It's like this powerful symbol of hope after all that chaos and devastation. It's God saying, okay, I'm not going to lie, that got a little out of hand, but I promise, never again.
And it's funny because even though we have that promise,
Yeah.
right? It's hard not to still feel a little bit of that, like, should I have a backup plan? Anxiety.
I know. It's like that little voice whispering, maybe I should learn to build a raft, just in case.
Right. But in all seriousness, it's fascinating how this story, even though it's ancient, it still speaks to us today.
100%. And I think that's what's so cool about this particular text we're looking at. It's not just telling the story, it's making us think about the bigger picture. Like, what are the consequences when we let things get out of control? Can we ever truly escape the cycle of good and evil?
Right. It's like it's asking us to look in the mirror a little bit.
Exactly. And that's what makes it such a powerful story, even thousands of years later.
Seriously, it's mind-blowing how these stories, they still hit home.
Yeah.
Thousands of years later, same struggles.
It's human nature, right? Like, some things never change.
Exactly. That whole good versus evil thing, trying to do the right thing when it's hard.
Mm.
Even that feeling of, maybe I should be more prepared. Like, I'm not saying I'm building an ark, but
Yeah. Hey, I've got a go bag, doesn't everyone? But you're right. This text, it pushes you to think about those bigger questions, not just the flood itself.
right. Like you said at the beginning, it takes those biblical accounts and it makes you, I don't know, engage with them on a different level.
Totally. And speaking of engaging, we've talked a lot about what was lost in the flood, right?
Right. All that knowledge, the cities, even the Nephilim, just gone.
Well, that's what makes the ending of this text so interesting. It doesn't exactly say everything was wiped clean.
Hold on. Are you saying there's a chance some of it survived?
It's more like the text focuses on the tragedy of the loss, but it also kind of hints that maybe, just maybe, something from before, something powerful, it might have endured somehow.
Okay, now you have to elaborate. Something survived. Like what? A piece of their technology. Or maybe some message from back then, hidden away somewhere. Give me something.
And that is the million-dollar question, right? What if something did survive? It's up to us to imagine what secrets might still be out there, buried under the sands of time, waiting to be rediscovered.
Man, now I've got all kinds of crazy images in my head. Like
Yeah.
some lost city Atlantis type situation.
Right. Or maybe it's not a physical thing. Maybe it's an idea, a philosophy, a way of looking at the world that's just been forgotten. That's what I love about this text. It leaves that door open just a crack.
I gotta say, this whole deep dive has been incredible. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, we're talking about an ancient flood, but it's really about so much more. And isn't that what a good story should do? Make you think, make you feel.
100%. And for me, that's what makes this text so powerful. It's a reminder that even in the face of unbelievable loss, even when it seems like everything's gone, there's always something worth holding onto, something to learn from.
Well said. And to everyone listening, we hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity, maybe even inspired you to do a little digging of your own. Until next time, Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and most importantly, never lose that sense of wonder.